Hey, welcome back. Coffee Talk Part 2. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I made a video about relationships, misrepresented relationships, ambivalent or meaningful relationships. One of the things that I found in my own personal life and the years that I spent growing and maturing, relationships are so vital to having a meaningful, fulfilling life. Now, I think a lot of people in our society today are mistaking dysfunctional relationships for meaningful relationships. Let me draw some illustrations, I think, that are the difference between a dysfunctional relationship and a meaningful relationship, starting with a meaningful relationship. In a meaningful relationship, you will often experience a sense of security. That person is my friend. I am their friend. We have a relationship. I can count on that relationship. If I'm in distress, I can go to that person and vice versa. Together, we offer each other support. We enjoy each other's company. When I speak with the person, I enjoy the tone and the demeanor that they present to me. I don't feel like I have to stand up for myself or I get steamrolled. I don't feel like this person is lacking consideration for my perspective or my viewpoint. I feel respected and valued. Those are some of the signs of a meaningful relationship. I think security is a big one. I think when you're in a meaningful relationship, you have a general sense that that relationship is going to continue, and that if you don't necessarily do anything, the relationship isn't going to dissolve into nothing. And then there's, ambivalent or misrepresented relationships. In those relationships, ones that, maybe aren't what they seem to be, you will feel a lack of security. You'll feel like you're surprised by their responses. You're often confused by what they say to you. Maybe you don't feel great in the interactions that you have with them, but maybe you tolerate that because, hey, they're your friend. Maybe when you go to them for support, you don't feel supported, or you feel lectured to, or you feel, otherwise unpleasant feelings. I believe that all of those feelings, all of those indicators are kind of illustrating a dysfunctional relationship. Now, humans are social people. We know with a certainty that if you take a human away from all other humans, you restrict their access to other humans, they'll actually not even survive. We, as a basic human need, have to have some form of connection with each other. For a sense of well-being, that connection probably needs to be positive, needs to be meaningful. But I actually believe that a lot of the interactions that we're having in today's day and age are neither of those things. They don't leave us with a sense of well-being. They don't leave us with a sense of security. Often the interactions leave us feeling worse than when we started that interaction or that friendship, or then before we saw them. And then we were put in a place where we're like, okay, I guess this is what relationships are. I don't believe so. I believe that relationships are meaningful and fulfilling when they're sincere. I believe we've moved to having a wide lack of sincerity with the way that we behave with each other, with our intentions with each other. I'll give you an illustration. I worked with this guy in a manufacturing job when I was a young guy. And I think I had one kid at the time. I believe I had children. I believe I was experienced with children. And this gentleman, he was 40, and he'd never had kids before. And so I think they did some in utero stuff. I believe they did the insemination. And his wife became pregnant with twins. So that's really exciting. Good for them. Yay. And then they were born, and Helmer, my coworker, looked exhausted all the time. All the time. I can only imagine how very difficult it was to have twins at 40. Here I was in my 20s with a kid going, wow, this is hard. Here he is at 40, with less energy, more responsibilities likely, having two kids at once for the first time. And I remember asking Helmer every day, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? And he'd be like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I asked him one day, I'm like, Helmer, would you tell me if you weren't doing good? And he looks at me and he says, no. It was pretty profound for me at the time. I thought to myself, ain't that the truth? We often greet each other like on the phone. Hey, how you doing? We don't care. We're not listening for the answer often. We're not waiting for them to tell us that they're good or to tell us that they're not good. We're actually just going through the motions. When we just go through the motions with people that are close to us, they know. They don't feel fulfilled. They don't feel accepted. They don't feel valued. The opposite's also true. When we're intentional and we're thoughtful and we're caring, people feel valued and respected and important in our world. And it's really on us to create and shape these sorts of dynamics. Now, for myself, I don't know if you've ever been here, but I was always frustrated because I was like, geez, I have kind of an idea of what I want from a friendship. I would like somebody who I enjoy spending time with. Like, that's not too much to ask. I'd like somebody who, we have some form of shared interests so that, our time together has a bit of a focus or, something that we can share. I would like them to be kind of ethical. I would like them to not lie. I would like them to not steal things from other people. I would like them to, believe that doing no harm to those around you is a good concept. In fact, if I was in a friendship with somebody who did lie, I would be quite concerned that they were also not telling me the truth. If I was in a friendship with somebody who treated others poorly, I've come to recognize that it's quite likely I will be treated poorly. And so I began to realize, like, in my world, I really needed to take action and audit my relationships. I needed to define what I thought functional and healthy was for me, and to define and to, settle within myself what was acceptable and what was not acceptable. It's not acceptable for me to never be able to speak. For example, if I'm in a conversation, maybe you've been in these before, where somebody just steamrolls you, I don't like to spend time with people like that. In fact, I find the healthiest thing I can do for myself is to not spend time with people like that. But it's not that easy. It's not that cut and dry. What if that person is close to me? What if that person is a family member? What if that person is the only friend that I have? What if that person is the only one I have time to spend, or that will spend time with me? And if I set this limit with this person, then maybe they won't spend time with me anymore and I won't have anybody to spend time with. All of those things are like very valid concerns. I've had all of those concerns. I have definitely held my tongue in times past because of those concerns. And I have found myself to have one consistent outcome. I was unhappy. Every time I settled for a friendship that didn't care for my needs in a meaningful way, in a clear way, in a way where they were willing to have that exchange from me, I was miserable. Anytime I would engage in a relationship where I'd allow people to behave in ways that made me feel uncomfortable, I was miserable. I realized that I either have two pretty difficult options in front of me, pretty painful options in front of me. One of them is to set a limit with my friend and say, hey, this behavior is not acceptable for me. I don't like it when you lie to me. I don't like it when you don't answer my questions. I don't like it when you dodge my phone calls or won't return my phone calls. And when I have a friend, I expect a certain amount of human decency. Can you do that for me? I've resisted having those conversations at times because I was quite concerned that if I said those things to the people that I was around, they would say no, or they would say, I don't want to do those things for you. And then I would find out that in truth, this person who I wanted to be my friend couldn't really be my friend, or didn't really want to be my friend in a way that I thought was meaningful, in a way that I found to be helpful and valuable. And so I felt like the two options were to either have that conversation and risk losing a friend, maybe have a better friendship, or have no friends at all. I believe there's a very real third option. I believe the third option is the most difficult, but the most rewarding option. I believe the third option is to seek out people who will treat you well, no matter what you're going through, and to turn down the support and acceptance of people who will not treat you well, no matter what's going on. Now, what do I mean when I say treat you well? I'll give you some illustrations from my own life. So I'm married, been married now for 15 years. Really excited about that. All that means to me is we've had a lot of time to grow together. And at this season of our marriage, things are pretty awesome. I gotta say, between us, they're pretty good. We understand each other on a deeper level. Being with each other brings a new sense of happiness. In what I learned in this relationship with my wife was, if I didn't set limits, even with her, I would be miserable. Not because she's bad, but because I and every other human being needs to exist in an environment that is healthy for them. And I and every other human being on the planet has individual needs. Many of our needs are shared. We all need to eat every day. We all need hydration, especially when it's hot. But many of our needs are unique. To be with me is a unique experience than to be with somebody else. Excuse me. And because Melissa loves me, she is willing to accommodate my needs. She doesn't belittle me for having them. She doesn't shame me for needing something. She accepts that that's something that I need and I want, and she willingly gives it to me. Over the years, it took some really hard conversations to cultivate that level of communication between us. In the beginning, when somebody gives you some form of criticism, it's really easy to take it personally. When somebody sets a limit with you, it's really easy to take it personally. I remember one of the ways that I set a limit that was really hard. Melissa was doing something that really frustrated me. And in doing the thing that really frustrated me, I got emotional. I got angry. But I was trying to communicate to her, hey, you're doing this thing that really frustrates me. Can we talk about this? And of course, when I get frustrated, I do things at the loudest volume possible. I'm a pretty loud guy to begin with. I turn up the notches a little bit. I remember saying to her, listen. I know it sucks to hear me speak in this way, but I'm not trying to be difficult with you. I'm trying to tell you I got this stuff bottled up on the inside of me, and I need to get it out. But what you're doing is stimulating my anger. It's frustrating me. Let's talk about that. I believe that that's a thing that you shouldn't be doing, or that I don't want you to be doing. Can we talk about that? That was hard, because it's really easy to just yell and swear and tell people where to go and how fast to get there, but it actually doesn't solve the problem. It vents a little bit of your frustrations, but it never addresses your frustrations. And so you feel a little bit of anger release, you feel a little bit of better, but you never get to the problem that was stirring that anger in the first place. When we exist in relationships with other people that fundamentally don't meet our needs, we're going to experience frustration. You'll hear it reflected in things like, why can't you just fill in the blank? Why can't you be more like this? Why can't you be more like that? Well, they've never agreed to do any of those things. Maybe you should just directly ask them, hey, can you be like this for me? Yes or no? No? Okay. You have your answer. You're never going to experience that in the relationship until they choose to want to give it to you. But I believe in our world, people aren't letting go of those relationships. Maybe they're not letting go of you because If they let go of you, or if they tell you that they actually don't want to be your friend because of what it costs them, then they don't have any friends too. So maybe they're on the same boat. Maybe we're just incompatible with each other because we've not learned to communicate with each other. And then when we learn to communicate with each other, we can create places of compatibility. We can create places where we can accommodate other people's needs. But until we kind of get down to what we want and why we want it, and that it's okay to want that, your desires in a relationship don't make you too needy. They don't make you too anything. They are what they are. Your needs don't go away just because you don't like them. Your needs don't go away just because you're in resistance to them. I shouldn't need reassurance. I'll tell you what, everybody needs reassurance. Every human on this planet needs reassurance. Children need reassurance. Teenagers need reassurance, and adults need reassurance. I'll tell you another truth. Adults who never received reassurance as a child need special handling. What do I mean by special handling? They have experienced a trauma that will now shape its way into their adult life, and their need and their connection to reassurance will show itself in ways that most people would consider unusual until they get the context and the framework of that person's experience. When they understand that that person never received reassurance ever in their life, they understand that there's been a deficit and there's been a gap. And so they're going to need to be gentle with people who are in that place. The word, I believe, is an accommodation. An accommodation is kind of like a crutch. If you broke your right leg, you put a crutch in that position. So your right leg can take a break while your left leg and the crutch do that work. The goal isn't to live with the crutch. The goal is to rehabilitate the leg. And when you begin to make accommodations for somebody's needs, even when they're based in a trauma, a childhood trauma, a difficulty, when you begin to love that part of that person and not shame them for it or embarrass them for it, they will change. They will begin to experience well-being in that specific area. They will begin to experience change in that specific area. You're actually feeding the need in a way that gets the need met, not feeding away the need in a way that will keep you needing to feed that need. So when we take understanding both of ourselves and others into our relationship, when we understand that fundamentally we're agreeing to be good people to and for each other, and then we live up to that responsibility and we ensure that others live up to that responsibility too, we have a sense of well-being. From that sense of well-being, we have a change in our body. Stress hormones go down, good hormones go up, oxytocin rises, cortisol decreases, health is promoted, illness is avoided. We experience well-being in all different capacities. I've said this before, I'll end here. Everybody is in need of each other. We are interdependent. We don't want to be codependent, where we need each other for everything, or independent, where we need each other for nothing. We want to be interdependent. We want to allow somebody's strengths and their gifts and their contribution to add to us. And we want to offer that same thing in exchange. This is societal contract, unspoken societal contract, kind of at its basest level. When we exist in those environments, we experience a sense of well-being. We experience a progression towards a healthier version of ourselves. When we don't, the opposite is true. We have a decline, we degrade in behavior, we begin to manifest dysfunction. I believe that the difference between a successful, fulfilling journey of life, I guess however you want to define success, the difference between a fulfilling, meaningful journey in life and one that is not is environment. When you exist in environment that is conducive to your growth, supportive of your growth, considerate of your specific needs and wants, you'll flourish. Some people are saying it nowadays, like, find your tribe. Find the people out there that think like you and act like you. I mean, that sounds like good advice to me. But when you exist in a tribe, when you exist in a community where people care for each other and serve each other and support each other, you have well-being. You have growth. I believe that the primary cause of this lack of well-being in society is hostile, inhospitable, relational environments. When I was a young man, I planted a tree at Queen Elizabeth Park in Vancouver. It was an evergreen tree. We dug a little hole, put that thing in there, covered the roots up and stuff, stepped back. We didn't have camera phones back then to take a picture and be like, here's my tree. My tree's going to be here forever. Hashtag tree planting. You know, we didn't get any of that going on. We had phones on the wall at home still. But I planted that tree in that environment. And in my mind as a 10-year-old boy, I had every expectation that tree would grow. The tree grew. The tree grew big. I don't know how big it is now. It's been years. But I saw it when it was bigger than me. I saw it a number of years later. And the tree grew. Of course the tree grew. Because inside of the tree was everything the tree needed to be successful. It had energy. It had sugars. It was, it was healthy. It was able to grow. And I put it in an environment that was conducive to its growth. It was an evergreen tree, so planting it with other evergreen trees, hey, that's a great place to start. It's in Vancouver, so I know the climate is supportive of that. And the tree grew. That tree would not grow if I planted it in a different environment. Not because there's anything wrong with the tree. It's actually entirely the environment. The environment of Queen Elizabeth Park was very conducive to the tree's growth. The environment in a desert is not conducive to a tree's growth. And I feel like we're living in relational deserts. Coffee talk for the day. See you tomorrow.